Welcome back to part 2 of Celebrity Pedophiles Caught after the Jimmy Savile investigation. We are going to go into some more of these cases. Stuart Hall was a news presenter for over 50 years, working with the BBC till he moved over to ITV in 1990, mainly working most of his career doing Northwest News. Hall had also worked as a football presenter. He was a well-known face in Britain. Stuart Hall shocked the nation when his sexual deviancy came to light. In May 2012, an anonymous letter was sent to a journalist from The Independent explaining how Hall had groomed her and sexually abused her as a child in the 1970s. The writer explained how she came forward after the Jimmy Savile investigation and people were speaking out about famous abusers, and she was angered that a pervert like Hall was appointed an OB. The letter was sent to the police and the investigation had begun. In December 2012, police arrested and charged Hall with 3 historical counts of indecent assault involving a 16-year-old girl in 1974. A 9-year-old girl in 1983 and a 13-year-old girl in 1984. He denied any wrongdoing and said publicly that he was innocent of all charges. At a plea hearing in April 2013, Hall pleaded guilty to 14 charges of indecent assault on 13 girls. Their ages were between 9 and 17 years old. Stuart Hall was clearly a sexual predator and a danger to young girls. He knew there was no doubt about it. He was going to prison. Hall was placed on bail till a further date, with Hall saying all along before the guilty plea he was innocent and the charges against him was a lie, and accused his victims of being gold diggers.
May I just say the allegations are pernicious and callous and cruel and above all spurious. I'm not guilty, and I shall be defending the accusations. And like a lot of other people in this country today, I'm wondering why it's taken 30 and 40 years for the allegations to surface. The last 2 months of my life have been a living nightmare. I've never gone through so much stress in my life, and I'm finding it difficult to sustain. Fortunately, I have a very loving family, and they're very supportive, and I think but for their love I might have been constrained to take my own life. But they've encouraged me to fight on and fight the charges, regain my reputation, my good name, and whatever I've represented to this country down the years. With that, I'd like to thank everybody who's been supporting me for your goodwill, which has sustained me through this absolutely horrific ordeal.
Stuart Hall appeared at Preston Crown Court in June 2013. He was sentenced to a very low, pathetic prison sentence for the crimes he committed. 15 months in prison is all he received. There had been numerous complaints from the victims, the public and politicians. The case was sent to the Court of Appeal for review, and Hall this time got 30 months, which was still very lenient, and justice was not served. Hall was back at court in May 2014 for further charges. He was found guilty of 2 indecent assaults against a 13-year-old girl. He was given a sentence of 2.5 years to be added onto his 30-month. Hall was another one who thought he had got away with historical sex offenses, even quoting in the video we saw earlier about why did it take all these years to come forward. Another celebrity pedophile exposed and convicted. Who's next? Max Clifford was a publicist and PR agent. He represented some big stars in his time, like being Simon Cowell's agent for over a decade. He also did PR work for Freddie Starr, Bade Goody and Rebecca Luz in light of the David Beckham affair and many others. He was a ruthless guy in his line of business and got the job done to a T. He was a big face in the celebrity world and to the public. Max Clifford was arrested at his home in December 2012 for suspicion of sex offenses. The officers arrested him as part of Operation Yewtree. He was taken to a London police station for questioning over 2 alleged offences dating back from 1977. In April 2013, Clifford was charged with a further 11 indecent assault charges between 1966 and 1985 on girls aged between 14 and 19. Once again, just like in every case we've gone through, Clifford said the allegations were completely false. Clifford pleaded not guilty to all charges and a date was set for trial in March 2014. Clifford was convicted of 8 counts of indecent assault against 4 victims by a jury. He was acquitted of 2 charges of indecent assault, and the jury failed to reach a verdict on another charge. Clifford appeared at court less than a week later for sentencing. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison. The sentencing judge added he was sure Clifford had also sexually abused a girl in Spain, but could not be tried in a British court. The judge also added that, if the law had not changed in 2003, the offences which Clifford was found guilty of would have been rape, and he would have been sentenced to life in prison. On December 7, 2017, Clifford collapsed in prison, and was taken to the hospital where he died of a heart attack 3 days later. Clifford was 74 at the time of his death and spent the last of his days in prison. Davely Traffis had a mainstream career for over 40 years, working with the BBC Radio 1, becoming one of their lead presenters in the 70s and 80s. He also became a regular presenter on Top of the Pops. He quit the BBC in 1993, then worked with many British commercial radio stations. Though Traffis was accused and tried in court for paedophilic crimes, he was never convicted, but he was convicted of sex crimes with adults. He was arrested in the Operation Yewtree investigation, so I think his story of shady sex crimes is worth a look. In October 2012, 2 former BBC employers alleged that Traffis had sexually assaulted several women while working at the BBC. One of the victims was only 17 years old in 1977, and another woman claimed he had played with her breast while she was live on the radio. In November, Traffis was arrested in regards to the Operation Yewtree inquiry. Nearly a year later, he was charged with 14 allegations of indecent assault and 1 sexual assault between 1976 and 2008, relating to females between 15 and 29. Traffis pleaded not guilty to all the charges, and the trial began. In February 2014, Traffis was found not guilty of nearly all charges. The jury failed to reach a verdict on 2 counts. Traffis told reporters, "I do not feel like there is a victory in any way, shape or form. On the contrary, I think you already know that I have been through a year and a half of hell on this." Several weeks later, the Crown Prosecution Service said they would seek a retrial on 2 outstanding counts, which a verdict was not reached. Within 2 months, Traffis was charged with another count of indecent assault and was facing a retrial for the 2 unreached verdicts from the earlier trial. Again, Traffis pleaded not guilty to all charges, and he now had another count of indecent assault on a girl aged over 16 in 1995. He was found guilty of indecently assaulting a female staff member on the Mrs. Merton show in 1995. He was found not guilty of the 2nd charge, and the jury failed to reach a verdict on the 3rd charge, involving sexual assault on a journalist who visited his home in 2008. He was sentenced to 3 months in prison, suspended for 2 years. Davely Traffis had gotten away with all but one of his crimes. He obviously had a very dark side to him, with so many allegations and the jury failing to reach a verdict on several of them. All his wrongdoings, and he was only punished for 1 and never spent a day in prison. Will more come out about him, or will he strike again? Only time will tell.